remembered throughout history as the day the great and powerful Soviet Union under our wise and powerful leader Khrushchev.
Following my comrade's introduction, my heart raced as I marched across the hardwood stage and mounted my fist against the idol podium, silencing the roaring crowd. I charmingly whispered, "Thank you, Korolev." Turning my attention toward the crowd, I addressed my people, igniting a passion in them for the space domination. This opportunity will bring the Soviet Union as of great importance. Superpower will be respected by all the other nations. On this day, October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union had launched the first satellite into space. Consequently, a space for race domination is inevitable between us and the United States.
Mr. President, the Soviets have launched their first entry in the lunar sweepstakes. The Luna 2 has been successful in its impact near the Sea of Serenity. Reports show Soviet deposits of emblems this past September. May I add, this accomplishment is the result of several failed Russian attempts. If we don't act quickly, the Soviets will have complete dominance over space exploration.
My advisor's reports have confirmed my greatest fears. The Soviets are making progress. However, my confidence has not been shaken. Last year, on August 17th, we made our very first lunar orbit under the auspices of the Air Force. In just 1 year, the United States has developed its very own space program, NASA, and is attempting its very first lunar launch with the Pioneer 4. My advisors and I silence ourselves in preparation as my speech plays on the White House television. We chose to go to the moon. We chose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things not because they are easy, but because they are hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept and one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win, and the others too.
In this decade, the United States will be the first to step foot on the moon.
Mr. President, the Soviet Union is also trying to do the same thing. Do you think we can make it there before them?
Well, this is a great challenge, a struggle to the finish line. But if there is one thing I am certain of, with this determination of our scientists, the willpower of our nation, and the courage of our astronauts, the United States will surpass the Soviet Union, launching the first man on the moon.
Now that the Soviets have launched a satellite, I am determined to put the first man into space. I addressed the people on the subject of space exploration and the competition between our two nations.
Korolev, if what you're saying is true, then we have found our landing space. With the great success of Lunar 9, we have achieved a lunar landing. Admit that after the previous 12 failed attempts, I grew skeptical. Let us hope we have not fallen behind the United States in pursuit of a soft land. It is with the great dismay that I come to you with the news from the United States, Apollo 8's triumph. A trio of the United States astronauts have orbited the moon. Fortunately, the victory of landing the first men on the moon will soon go to the Americans. Let us not forget which nation was the first to reach the moon. September 1957, our Luna 2 was the first man-made object to ever strike the surface of the moon. In September of this year, the Zone 5 carried the first living creatures that ever made a circumlunar voyage. The question now for the Soviet comrades is what we do in response. We shall not take this minor victory as defeat, nor shall we surrender in our conquest for space. Comrades, our focus shall be in robotic missions. They will not be easy, nor shall they be cheap, but this program, I promise you, is a scientific venture, rather than one conducted for one sake of the Cold War competition. The United States may have victory in landing the first men on the moon, but none of that will ever matter with our focus on the real science of space exploration. Let us give thanks for our brave comrades and brilliant scientists for their continual good work.
In awe, I stare down at the distant Earth as the Apollo 11 approaches the moon. The first image of Earth taken by the Lunar Orbiter 1 seems remarkably insignificant from where I stand now. I turn my attention toward the moon, my eyes fixated on the path of the spacecraft. With sweaty palms, shortness of breath, and a fluttering heart, my instincts tell me something is wrong. The object of Apollo 11 is to land safely rather than to touch with precision on a particular spot. The Lunar Orbiter 3 had previously mapped out the landing site for this mission, the Sea of Tranquility. I noticed that craters are passing 2 seconds too early, meaning the Eagle would touch beyond the planned landing zone by several miles. We are headed towards a landing space that is unsafe. I have to do something, I thought to myself. At that moment, I would take over manual control of the LM and search for an area that seems safer for landing.
Contact light.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Buzz, can you believe it that we were the first people to ever be on the moon?
No, I can't, Neil. It seems like just yesterday I was watching President Kennedy's speech sitting on my couch at home.
It's July 20th, 4:18 p.m. Buzz and I just landed in the State of Tranquility on the moon. We are preparing to take our first steps onto the moon. We have been giving orders to collect samples of lunar rocks, execute several experiments, and photograph the moon's surface. Stepping onto the moon's surface for the first time, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. The camera catches me utter these words, and I can't help but think that people are going to remember this moment. After long days of research and examination, Buzz and I head back to the Columbia to rejoin Michael Collins, who waits for us in the command module. After these couple days in space, I feel like a hero.
This just in on the Channel 5 News. We have reports claiming that NASA will discontinue sending manned missions into space. Stay tuned for more information.
Listening to this, my heart chatters. As I sit on my couch watching the news, I think to myself, my dreams of ever going back into space have been crushed. I will never get my chance to go on the mission to Mars that I said I would 4 years ago. I feel that even after all that our country has done to try and dominate the space race, Russia still came out on top. We just don't have the funds necessary to continue sending people into space. Russia now has a monopoly over manned space. I was once a hero, the first man to walk on the moon, and now I'm sitting at home completely defeated.